Hey, welcome back to the Conscious Environment Podcast. I am extra excited this week, not just because I had a chance to sit down with Morgan Matrix and talk about white allyship and what it actually means to be an ally. What is that word? How do we use it? But I actually lost this recording for a way too long of an amount of time, and I was actually able to recover it out of nowhere. So this is almost like a lost file. So if we mention dates or time or anything like that, this was actually recorded a couple of weeks ago, a few months ago now at this point, and I was actually able to recover it. So I'm super excited. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation that me and Morgan had, but I'll just get to it. So we can just jump into it. So I normally start off with what's your name? Where are you from? And I'm sorry, what's your name? What do you do? And how can people find you?
My name is Morgan. You can find me at the handle Morgan Matrix on TikTok, Instagram. I mostly do TikTok. I am an activist. I talk about anti-racism work, and in my real life, I'm a bartender.
Sick. Real life.
Yeah. In real life, you can find me behind the bar.
In our waking lives, the things that we do because, money and whatever.
Yes. The means to the ends.
So I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to bring you on because I saw a couple of videos that you had done about this, and you do a bunch of videos kind of speaking to white allies. That's is it fair to say that that's your audience, or that's kind of the
definitely the how-to guide for the white ally. I have a little knack for marketing, so I just I love a good slogan. It's funny, when I first started the series, it was the how-to guide for the white ally. And as I do the series and I learn more through doing it, white ally has become in quotations.
Oh, no.
Because it's people who identify as being a white ally, people who are on the journey to make the world a better place, searching for justice, equality, equity.
Sure.
And at the time when I started my series, it really came about after the Buffalo shooting with the grocery store. And I saw so much online of people being empathetic and caring and sad, but consistently saying, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, in my home, like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? What do you mean? Like, there's so many things you can do. And I find that, especially Black people, as we deal through life, it does get to a point where you don't want to explain things anymore. You are tired. You are living the life. And at the time, I was like, I have the capacity to talk about this. I have the capacity to share what I know, share things that I think could be helpful, and just spread knowledge. I truly believe through knowledge and teaching, we will find understanding. And that is how the how-to guide was born. And since I've begun this journey, it has definitely morphed. I've learned a lot about myself, and I have high hopes to continue to push and be a voice in this sphere.
Awesome. That's amazing. Actually, if you've seen some of the older videos that I've done around that time, one of my family members was actually lost in that shooting. So the Buffalo shooting is very kind of near and dear to my heart.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And the interesting thing to me was in Buffalo. I had more people from outside of the city, outside of the state, calling me or messaging me or just seeing how I am or being visibly upset. In Buffalo, there was a lot of performative things that happened.
Really?
But there wasn't a lot of
like
conversation.
Hands-on. Yeah.
Right. Black people, we all came out and we all did stuff and we all helped that community because just a quick way of explaining it, it was a food desert. So two things happened at the same time. Not only was it a tragedy, but the only supermarket for about 2 miles got shut down because of that tragedy. So, and that was a walking neighborhood. Not a lot of cars in that neighborhood. And a lot of the activists, which my cousin who we lost was one of them, made that part of town a lot more walkable because there's a lot of elderly people that are over there. Just little things like wheelchair access for sidewalks, things that you don't kind of think about. But that was what they kind of catered to. So there was a lot of compounding, but even within the city, you had a lot of performative allyship, which is kind of talking about jumping into the topic that we're going to talk about, but a lot of performative things. Everybody came out with a T-shirt to sell. Buffalo strong, one Buffalo, Buffalo together. There were these black shirts. The supermarket franchise itself, which is like a semi-local chain, they got shirts for their workers. And I thought that was fine. That was very nice because a lot of them were really affected. I was actually just telling a friend of mine this the other day, is after that happened, the next few days, the news kept getting kind of these sort of copycat or these threats that other tops in the area were targeted. And that didn't make national news, but that's what was happening here.
Wow.
So I understood where the supermarket was like, oh, we're going to get these kind of things that, love wins all or whatever they put on the shirt, because it's what we were just saying about you got to go to work. There was people that had to go to work the next day at those other locations and be like, just the mind.
No, it's definitely a level of performative after tragedy, and even most of my activism really catapulted full force in 2020. And I'm located, at the time I was in DC. I was watching DC burn, and you saw the daytime protests and you saw people come out with their signs. It almost, in DC at the time, it felt like a festival. It literally felt like I was attending a festival, the way it was so scattered, so unorganized, people literally coming out, and a lot of white people coming out with their signs, with their friends, with their groups. And they're like, where are you going? Where are you headed? What's next? And it was so frustrating. And that was what pushed me, because I was like, why are we not talking about anything? You guys are literally doing art projects, doing your signs at the protest, and then you leave. You leave, and whose number did you get? Who did you talk to? Who did you commune with? Like, I saw a lack of connection, and it all felt so performative. It felt like we were all just showing up for I attended sticker, like gold star, thank you for showing. And I can appreciate it, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't near enough. And I found that a lot of people really weren't trying to do any more than get their picture for Instagram and roll out. And that really bothered me. And that pushed me to start my own grassroots organization and organize a voter registration event and a mass protest on Juneteenth. It was the first mass protest on the mall for Juneteenth that DC had ever seen. I was able to sign up a lot of people to vote. I was able to get different grassroots organizations talking. And what I realized through that is you've got to want it in a way where you want to make change. It's not just it's got to be not about you. And that is one of the biggest things that's centering yourself that I see with performative allyship. It's about you. What can I get from this moment? How can I profit? How can I popularize myself?
Right.
And to be an activist is such a selfless act. So the whole nature of performative allyship at its core is you're not on that page yet. You're not even ready to do that work. It's almost like you still need to work on yourself before you can do work and be of service to other people.
Right. Absolutely. And we've been saying it a couple of times, but what, in your opinion, is performative activism? Like, if you had to, if there's a white person listening and they're like, how do I know if I'm doing the wrong thing? What's like a quick elevator pitch definition of what we mean by performative activism?
It shouldn't stop. It is ongoing. It is living. It is breathing. It is not one event. It is not one donation. It is not one live I attended. It is not one book I read. It is ever breathing and moving because we are not where we need to be as a people. And there's always room for improvement. So if you've stopped, if it feels performative, I understand that we all have moments of pause, and that is great. But even through the pause, there are ways to be an activist. There are ways to be kind. There are ways to be an ally to other people. So it's something that if it doesn't feel constant, you're not doing it right.
Right. And somebody's just pointing out that it feels like it's conditional.
For sure.
That seems to be a lot of the ways that I see it. Especially you see this kind of thing happen online. There's things that we do on the ground, but we're educators. You make educational content for people to absorb, and that's part of it. That is a valid part of what activism is, because people don't have a long attention span, so we weaponize the things that we can use to get this information out. But I run a lot into conditional support with, hey, this, here's a suggestion of how you should do things better, or here's how you're actually harming the cause that you claim to support. And then we immediately get this backlash of, well, if you're gonna police the way that we'll do it, then we won't do it, then we won't help if I have to do it your way, or you should be careful how you speak to people because blah, 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 we're not going to do it anymore. Is that something that you run into on the ground? Is it more online, or?
I feel like I will only do this if you do that group. In my actual experience on the ground activism, those type of people aren't present, because in my mind, if that is your way of thinking, you're not even at the table of activism. You're not even playing in the game. If it's a this or that, those really weren't the people that I saw out there doing the work, or even coming out to protest, to be a part of these spaces. I really do believe that kind of mentality hides behind a computer screen. In the real world, the people who showed up, in my experience, I didn't see or get those kind of vibes to actually have the boldness to say something like that. People don't say that face to face, in my experience. I'm like, you're giving off troll, you're giving off keyboard warrior. So and that is a big thing too. I know in this day and age, so many people claim I'm antisocial. I don't do well with people, or I don't have access to people. And they do stay behind a keyboard and activate that way. And I do believe that it's possible. I'm not saying that you can't be an activism or an activist from behind the internet, but as far as that like negativity, I don't see it in the real world as much. And those people, for me, I don't even give them any attention, because to have that kind of mindset, you're not even close. And I feel like the people I'm touching and talking to are a little bit further along in their journey. We're talking about a little bit more advanced things. And that's almost where my how-to guide I wanted to push was, I'm taking the white ally who has graduated a little bit, and I'm trying to cultivate them to be able to teach. And from my platform, I've actually seen some of the people who follow me start to talk. And I go out of my way every few weeks or so, and I look at people who follow me, and I try to find white people who don't post a lot, but may have posted that one little video or one something. And I make sure to follow them. I comment on their video, and I try to encourage their voice more and more, because those people that have conditional allyship, that performative, I think we're at that phase where, or I hope to get to that phase where white people who are a little bit further along in their journey, you take that, you start teaching, start talking, and spreading what you've learned, because Black people are tired, and we cannot get everyone. We cannot have the reach, and it's exhausting. It really is exhausting. I need y'all to do the next thing. 2020, you were listening a lot, and I'm over listening. I need you to do something. I need you to move. So I hope to see white allies move forward in corralling their people.
I absolutely hope that too.
Right.
A quick aside. Will the how-to guide for White Allyship, or White Ally how-to guide, do you have any plans of that becoming a book, or is it a book? Because this feels like a book title, and I want it to be a book really, really, really bad, because I want to read it.
Look, thanks for the idea. I have been writing and trying to archive some of the things that I've been teaching, and also some of the things I've experienced being on the ground in my activism. I haven't pushed that intensely, because people have also asked for me to kind of mash up all of what I've done so far and put it into something just like together. It's an idea, and I appreciate your faith in me, and I'm loving it. I need the motivation sometimes. I really do. But honestly, that's a good book idea. Let me try and do that before someone else does.
I think it's an awesome book idea. I'm glad we thought of it.
Right.
Great idea.
In the credits, I got you.
I've had people say, like, do you teach a formal class? And it's like,
right.
It's no, that's a lot of work. I gotta get there.
I see some creators who are a little bit more established. I know we have mutuals like Portia and White Woman Whisperer, and these women are so knowledgeable. They have created systems. You can click and get information, and I admire and I'm in awe, because I'm like, y'all are focused. Y'all got that drive. And I'm
you got
I need to look at them and get on that focus.
I haven't even been able to figure out how to set up a Patreon. Like, it's something a bunch of people have asked about, and I'm like, well, it's coming. We'll get there.
I need somebody to give me the how-to guide, guide to Patreon, to getting all of my little ducks in a row. I know. I'm like wishing I would have paid more attention in computer class, because technology has left me behind in the dust with a quickness. but I'm trying. I'm out here trying.
Yeah, there's so many like just little things that people do that I'm like, how did you think to do that? Or I don't know how to write all these thoughts and ideas that I have down into something. My brother asked me, he's like, are you going to write a book? And I was like, I don't know how to write a book. And he was like, just start writing and then it'll be a book. I'm like, I don't.
You say that, but it's not so simple.
Part of me feels like that's not how it works.
Yeah, this mind goes on a tangent. I'll start the book about something and then we'll be talking about, the focus. I've got a little rabbit brain all over the place.
If people could see the amount of like takes that we do to like you guys all get to see the polished like sexy video that we finished.
Yes,
that we're finally like
when you do the and it goes to black and white like the little side screen. I think that's brilliant, and I low key want to just like because I was like. Because I was
please
like,
steal all
it's
the
like
things.
the way my brain, because when I talk, it's like I'm trying to teach, but then I have like funny commentary because I find I'm funny in conversation. And I was like, that's such a great idea to do that little split screen. So I watch you guys and I learn. Yes.
A lot of the style, like lighting, all of the fun tech things. I've talked to people or took little bits and pieces of different things that I've seen and combine that with my own style to try to come up with something. But if you guys could see the cutting room floor of all the takes and stuff that we do and how we say things, like the first 90 times we said it, and then it finally gets to that really cool gem
when
that I get to give you.
I will say this, if you're thinking about creating content, it does get easier. When I first started, it took me so long to get 1 3-minute video edited, done. I would literally sit in front of the camera, know what I want to say, and just nothing comes out. Like hesitate, like just pure hesitation. And I'd fumble over my words. I was nervous in front of the camera. It felt awkward. It was really cringy for me. I did not like it at all. But I was like, I've got something to say. I really have something to say. So it does get easier. And now instead of the whole process of recording to editing taking me like a whole business day, we're just a few hours now. It's cut down. So it does get better. It does.
Yeah, you definitely do get quicker. It used to, when the first videos I made, people would be like, oh, just make a bunch and put them in your drafts. And I'm like, it takes me a whole day to make one. What are you talking about? Like, I can't do this in a day.
And how many have you made, spent the whole day making it, edit it, and then you're like, not posting that?
Yeah.
That happens to me sometimes. My drafts they're colorful. There's a lot going on in there.
But I think that this is an important thing to kind of give to white allies that feel like you shouldn't say anything, or you want to have content, or you want to do something, or you're nervous about it. Just make the content. Just do it.
Agreed.
And I always kind of think of a quote attributed to Patrick Stewart, but I don't know if I've never actually heard him say it or seen it written in a real way. I've only seen a meme of this, but I hope this is a real quote that he said. But he was talking to some interviewer, and he said, we live in a world where the only people that are listened to are old white men. So as an old white man, I'm going to use my voice to speak for people who don't get listened to in uplift voices. Right. And I loved that self-awareness, but also the humility with it. Like, yeah, it's easier on some of the apps to go a little bit more viral if you look a certain way. The way that some of us look, as soon as the algorithm figures out that's what we look like, our videos don't get as many views. Use your power for good. It's an AI that is unfortunately a little racist, and
it was so discouraging in the beginning. I remember my first community guideline violation. It's so gut-wrenching because it's like my platform was just taking off, and they weren't just being like, hey, this is just a warning. They were like, next one, you're done. You're done forever. And I was just like, whoa, I just started. And I had to quick take down a bunch of videos, rephrase what I said, and then put it back out. And I don't think they realize the work that goes into that. We're watching real time Black people use code on an app because we're getting censored to a point where it's affecting our livelihood, which is this content creation. And that really hit me, getting community guideline violations. Like that is low key a mental thing that you kind of have to overcome and be so aware of. I am so aware of what I say, and it's annoying. It's so annoying. I wish I could just talk how I want to talk, be who I want, be who I am at all times, but I can't on this app to an extent. You are being censored. You are being watched. Your content is being flagged. You've got trolls who are working twice as hard as our white allies because we're getting banned and content is getting suppressed all the time. So I think it's just interesting, even for the people who learn from our platforms. You're literally like, how many ways do we say white now? YT, palm people, mayonnaise brigade. Like, there's so many different ways to say it because we're trying to get around being flagged and we're spelling things differently. It's just, I find it to be all just like telling, like you're literally watching it real time. You're watching us having to code switch to not have consequences.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I figured out that I had to start changing a few things or start blocking more people, which was kind of heartbreaking a little bit because I do like to have an open dialogue with people in the comments. I am not a huge responder. I don't make a ton of videos responding to all the comments, but I will go back and forth and talk with people about things because there are no stupid questions. There shouldn't be things that you feel badly about.
I can relate with you so much on that. And that was even part of why I started the how-to guide. I was watching so many like quote unquote white allies get torn up in these response videos to the point where I was like, oh, like I was feeling, I was just like, oh, that hurt to watch you go through. And I wanted to create a space where I was like, okay, we can be wrong here sometimes. We can ask some questions that are a little weird. So I definitely was really hesitant to do response videos. And the worst part of it all, when you respond to negative comments, you get the best views. It's all kind of, it sucks a little. It like perpetuates negativity, but it helps push my message. So it's like a constant balance.
Right.
With fire.
A lot of times I've ended up having to just use a comment as opposed to just responding directly to them and being angry with them. Use a comment to say, like, this comment is an example of this concept that I'm talking about. Because I feel also with talking with especially white allies in the beginning of their journey that are just kind of having their eyes open, like the world is a little technicolor now, and now they're starting to see things and patterns where they didn't before. And still, every time they hear of a new one, they're like, wait, that's not real. That can't be a thing. I've never experienced that or heard of it before, so that can't be a thing. I'm talking about digital blackface the other day, and I had a bunch of people be like, no, that can't possibly be true. But then I saw a bunch of people in the comments correcting them saying, no, I am a white person and I've seen this a lot, or I know people that do this on purpose. And someone asked, I think he was younger, he asked a question, and it was a genuine question, but I think someone would have thought it was silly or disingenuous. But he asked, if I'm playing a video game character and the video game character is black, is that something that I should avoid? Honest question that he asked. A little silly, a little off topic, maybe.
Right.
But I just responded to him and I was like, man, that isn't the intent. And this is where we get into intent versus impact, your impact is low and your intent is not that. Like, you're not identifying as that person. Now, we can get into what VR is. And if you're inhabiting the body of a Black person and presenting yourself as a Black person in like a chat room where you're walking around, and now you are pretending to be a Black person.
Yep.
Different.
And it's different.
If you're playing Street Fighter and Balrog, the boxer is your main, go for it.
Right.
Like, I feel like that is fine, but it depends. And now we're getting caught up with this idea of we only have 3 minutes. 3-minute videos do worse. So now we really have a minute to explain a concept that's like a 5-minute thing.
Right. That could be a whole class, a whole 90-minute class. Some of these, it's just definitely hard to compact. And when you're speaking on topics, it's so easy for your message to get misconstrued, and you have to be very deliberate in what you say, how you present it. I found I got a lot of these type of questions in the beginning, and that was another reason I wanted this space, because I found I got questions like those. I was gifted art from a friend. Is it okay if I hang it? Some of the questions I was just like, really? Like, guys, hang your art. Like, it's
go for it.
And it was like, you guys are not empowered to even speak anymore. You're so frozen. And I don't know if what I'm doing is the big R. I don't want to be the big R. And I'm just like, guys, we gotta move past this. We gotta be a little brave, because I'm just seeing everybody be frozen. So I definitely see these questions, and I try to respond as much as I can, because I feel like there are no stupid questions either. And a lot of people get something when you respond. And I've even tried to like black out the name of certain questions just to keep stuff anonymous and make it a whole teaching moment. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to lie. I've tagged a few comments and responded. I was like, Portia said this to me once. She was just like, the high road gets traffic jams sometimes, okay?
I heard an Amanda Seales quote. What was it? When they go low, we keep the same energy.
Yeah, sometimes you do. Sometimes it's necessary. It's necessary for my mental health, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like, just let me be mad about this for a second.
Yeah, just for a quick second. But I've deleted them right after, too.
I think something that I think a message or like a tip that white allies should take, and this is something that Portia said, I've heard you say, I've said it, if it don't apply, let it fly. And I think that's what a few of the kind of silly questions that we're getting to stem from. And intent and impact, we use those words a lot of times when somebody says, oh, well, I didn't mean to do this. Often when somebody responds with, well, the impact is the important part, that's because you had a really big impact. You might not have meant to do it, so your intent is pure, but your impact is still what it is. You know, you hurt somebody. But the silly questions come with low impact things. A friend of yours who you know gave you a piece of artwork, and artwork should be hung on walls. That's okay. That's not the same thing as you visiting that Southern museum that only sells like black caricatures and Mammy dolls and things like that. Yep. You bought something there and you're hanging it on your wall. That's a completely different. And both of those,
tough questions too, like that. Somebody said, I saw shackles like at a yard sale, and they were like, what do I do? Should I purchase them to like remove them from this person? And I was just like, whoa, like I'm going to need to Google. I don't even know what to say to you right now. Like, what do you do with slave shackles? I don't know. And that's even where my video, I need y'all to Google, because sometimes I think they come to us with these questions like, you're black, you would know. What do I do? And I'm just like, y'all, Google it. I don't know. Like we're both hitting a wall because it's hit a new level. I am not an expert on everything Black. So I'm going to need you to hit Google for sure.
Right. And that's another tip for white allies. Black people are used to being made into a monolith and speaking for the all of Black people. Even if we're not, we get accused of speaking for all Black people just because we're Black. This happens to us all the time. So you don't have to do that either. You can look things up and you can find things on your own. Just because we're a Black person or teaching something doesn't mean that we know every single aspect of it. And don't get frustrated with us if we're like, whoa, I'm going to have to research that and then get back to you. And I actually saw you do, I'm glad you brought this up because I actually saw you do an amazing video on, you have to refresh me on the details. It was someone who had a collection of photographs, was it? Or
yeah, so that was I think the Joey McFarlane with the Emancipation movie. He had the original Whipped Peter photo of this former slave Gordon, and literally the original photo brought it out on a red carpet to show and tell. It was just mind-boggling. It disgusted me. I was just like, for one, why is that in your pocket? Why does that feel right in your pocket? I couldn't even imagine having a piece of history like that and just keeping it for myself as well. I was just completely taken aback by that. And I hope more, because honestly, I do believe a lot of white families, white people have artifacts that should be donated, that need to be donated to the proper institutions and archived and saved, because Black history is American history. Although we like to put it in 1 month, it is American history. And I feel like some allies know Grandpa and Grandma got some photographs, documents that could really, really help further the education when it comes to just racism and slavery and the past. I think it's necessary. It was eye-opening for sure to see it done on a red carpet. Nonetheless,
it's such a public place. I was just talking to the former love poet, the founder of the Bristol English Project, and he was saying the same thing. Is a lot of these stumbling blocks that Black folk get into when we're researching our past is because a family has it. Like the family won't give up the information.
Yep.
And those are white families that have all that stuff. Like whenever we look back into the past and we have, photographs, artifacts, postcards, all these different things that were souvenirs of different events or whatever. As we find our Black ancestors in those photos or in those things, there was white people that did it to them. Like there's another side to that. I feel like we often teach Black history as this one-sided kind of thing with like this amorphous monster that is racism happened, but we don't make it people. Like they were people.
Give it a name.
Right, exactly. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot by a person who didn't like him. He was assassinated by a person. There was people that shot fire hoses at us or sicked dogs on us or wouldn't let us sit at counters. That was some man's business, and he went to bed every night. Fine, waking up the next day, kicking Black people out of his store. But we never talk about that guy's story.
Exactly. And the more white allies we get into the conversation, you all have access to these stories, to the owners of these restaurants who refused Black people and other people of color during that time. You have artifacts, you have photographs, you have business records. There's certain things that I'm just like, as you guys learn and discover more, start talking to your family. Like they are a part of history that hasn't been that long. It did not happen that long ago. My grandma tells me stories of when she would drink from the white fountain because the colored fountains never worked and she didn't care. And her sisters would yell and be like, "You're going to get us in trouble." And she said, "I don't care. I'm thirsty." So if my grandma can tell me that story, then your grandma can tell you a story about how she perpetuated the problem. So I just think that conversation needs to continue to happen. And white allies need to be bold. You need to be brave. You need to have these conversations, because I can't have that conversation with grandma. Like,
right.
It's not there for me. So you all have to push the envelope. And that is where I hope, as you watch these videos, as you read, as you study and learn more, you're able to find the confidence when you're backed by the knowledge and have these conversations. It doesn't need to be hostile. It's the knowledge. We're seeking knowledge. Shed some light.
Right. I was encouraging people. So the same resources of the Bristol English Project, or that Black people can use, like the Freedmen's Bureau documents that they have that give us kind of access to the slave records, where Black people can essentially find the names of their ancestors. There's kind of a tricky thing about that, is a lot of them took the names of. Sometimes they took like Black, or just like a general kind of name that implied something. Brown, Black. That's why you have a lot of Black people with those last names. But a lot of times they took the name of wherever they were, the plantation owner. But in the flip side of us finding the name of the enslaver that owned our ancestors, find your great grandparents' name, because where they say like owned, it's a property record and it says owned these people. There's a name before that it tells who owned those people, and that name is always right. These names over here sometimes aren't correct, or like you have to kind of play with it.
Right.
Like my grandmother's name and her mother's name was Francis Mary, but a lot of times they just wrote Mary down, or and so you just kind of have to kind of play with the names a little bit. But the owner's name is always right because he was paying taxes. His name was correct.
Right.
But,
so for white, one right.
Yeah. So for white allies, it's scary, but I would encourage you, the same way that Black people are looking for their ancestors through these means, look for your ancestors through these means. And I think that would be beneficial to know, like to actually know, what role did my family play in this? Did they play a role in this? Second generation or first generation immigrant children, they love to say like, my family wasn't even here. But some of y'all, your family's been here a very long time. Just like our family's been here a very long time. So I think that I would encourage people to do that. And this kind of leads into another topic that you have an amazing video on. But Black trauma. So we talked about the photograph that his name is still escaping.
I think, are you referencing the cry video? The tears.
I was referencing, should white allies consume Black trauma movies? Should anybody? Should everybody?
So I think I have a differing opinion a little bit than what I'm seeing a lot of. I definitely understand where Black people are coming from when they say they can't watch it, won't watch it. I understand and relate. I find it hard myself to watch some of these movies that it's really hard. Like, I'd be feeling some type of way for a few days. Mm-hmm. But I find it to be the white ally's duty and obligation to consume this kind of media. And it's such a fine line, because sure, you have some people who look at Black trauma and it's something they get off on, something they enjoy. And that is unfortunate. And I find those to just be hateful, evil people at the core. But I find that cinema especially just delivers such a well-rounded depiction. You get the audio, you get the visual sensory, and you're very much immersed in these stories. And I find these stories to be more important and needing to be told. It's a fine balance, but I do believe that these stories need to be shared and told. And where is that line? I don't quite know, as far as when is enough Black trauma, like how many slave movies are enough? And I don't know. I can't answer that, but I do believe that they're necessary. It's definitely a necessary learning tool. I've seen some movies that have been just like all consuming, where I'm like, how can you not feel something after watching this? Mm-hmm. So I do believe that white allies especially should consume this kind of media. Black people, if you want to sit it out, I get it. I totally get it and respect that completely.
That would be my advice. I think with the prevalence of everything being in 4K and you walking around with a high-powered camera in your pocket that makes phone calls, I think we're inundated with a lot of Black trauma every day. We see it all the time. So I think a lot of Black people are like, when I go to the movies, I don't want to go to the movies and watch Black people get beat up or shot or whatever. Like, I just got done watching that on the news. I'm trying to go to the movies to go to a movie. I do think that these stories need to continue to be told, because cinema is a way that we hold on to history. Even if they bastardize it or mess it up or whatever, we still spark interest in these stories. Like the Emmett Till story has been, I was looking at like a Google chart, but like the Emmett Till story has spiked in 2020 and has kind of plateaued with like searches that people have been doing. It's at the highest point that it's been, but there's been, I think, a TV show, the straight to streaming movie, and then there was another movie just recently, Till, that went to that was in theaters. But again, that's literally what Mamie Till wanted. She wanted people to know her son's story. She wanted people to be able to see it, to be able to experience it, and understand what had actually happened to him.
Right.
But I do get, like you said, I get where
it's a tricky balance. It's a hard thing to kind of push for, because even if we take it to George Floyd, why did it have to be recorded for white people to care? 2020 was the year everyone woke up. They're all like, I am now woke. I now see there is a problem. Something is wrong. Alarm bells are ringing. Why did it take you watching 9 minutes for that to happen? Why did it take the visual of death for you to be like, we have a problem on our hands? There have been so many other instances, so many other stories reported, but that video started a world movement, a global movement. And I'm not, it's tragic. It's really tragic. And I can't answer the why. Like, I've honestly wanted to do a video on this and ask my followers, like, why? What was it? Why? I don't get it. Because I've seen so many other tragedies, younger Black men, younger Black women. Not that age matters, but it's just tragic to see children be taken by police brutality. Like, why was it this one? And I really do believe that it was the video. that the people being able to see it. So in some respects, it's just like, I'd much rather you watch a movie than we need to watch more live murders, you know?
Right.
So if the movie can give you that kind of push, that kind of ignite in your soul that something is wrong, then white people, go watch the movie. Like, go watch the movie. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I think the George Floyd thing was I think it was a couple of things. I think a lot of people were like little kids. We got sat in front of it and we couldn't look away. You couldn't go to the beach. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't go to a movie. You couldn't do anything else. We just had to watch this. And every time you turned on your phone, every time you turned on the TV, they were talking about this and you couldn't escape it. But the other thing that I think really changed people, from anyone that I talked to that had like kind of a breakdown about it, or like, this is why, the answer that I got was the length. I think because we talk about it, and it's unfortunately ends up being something that is quick. It's a gun. It's something, and we hear, an unarmed black man was shot, and we don't see any aftermath, or we see the police tape up to the moment of the shooting, and then we don't see anything that happens after that, and that's just like the 1 minute snippet that they give us, or it's 30 seconds, so you can't really make anything out. It's jumbled and it's dark, or it's whatever. This video, recorded from a third party, like a kind of somebody watching it, and there's no cut. You see it. And I think what woke up a lot of, especially white people that considered themselves allies or didn't think that racism was that big of a deal, they watched it and they were like, well, wait a second. His arms are tied behind his back. He's laying on the ground. Why are they still doing this? Oh, well, they're going to get off of them in a second. And then it kept going, and it kept going, and it kept going. And everything that black people have been saying, like, no, it's very bad. It's been bad. It's been this grotesque. It's been this over the top. It's been this extreme the whole time. White people finally got a chance to sit down and see for nearly 10 minutes brutality happen to somebody, and in a slow, methodical way.
It was
not
very
a fist
slow.
fight. You just watched it slowly happen.
Grassroots protesting when that happened. We held a protest, it was literally the next day, I think it was, and we literally had everyone kneel, and we timed and shouted out, like, when he called for his mother, at what point did what happen, while asking the entire crowd to stay on one knee. And people were sobbing. And to sit on your knee, just your own body on the pavement for that long. I'm decently fit. I'm pretty average size, and it was painful. It was so physically painful. And then to hear the narration of what happened, that was definitely profound. So I can definitely agree with the time. The slow watch was probably a very big factor into what ignited so many people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking here. Black thinkers.
Sometimes I look down. Lives are hard, especially for me, because I'd be like ADD brain, because I'll be like, look there. I'm like, pay attention to what he's saying. Look there. What are you going to say?
No, it's all right. I do the same thing. But he's bringing up the idea that the media also really pushed it. And I don't know if the media pushed it particularly more than they would have pushed any other national story. This one, I think it's the slowness of it and the kind of it wasn't bombastic. It wasn't like a firework thing. It wasn't a bunch of fist fighting or a shootout or something like that where there's nuance with like, oh, well, maybe the cop thought he was in danger, or maybe this or maybe that. All
clear.
Of the excuses that we ever have for the police got thrown out the window after the second minute. And then we had 7 more to just sit there and watch. And I think that's why it was so particularly strange, because that wasn't even the only... George Floyd wasn't even the only thing that happened that May. Like,
yeah.
there was 2 other that made national news, and then just all summer it just continued to go on. It felt like it was going to be this never-ending thing, but those were easy to explain. Somebody got shot because they were doing this, or somebody was running away, so what do you expect to happen? But I think because there was nowhere for this person to go, and a reasonable person watching this, even putting themselves in their shoes. But I think a lot of white people have the rationale of, well, just do what the officer says, and then everything will be okay. And they watched a man comply and
it was not okay.
Beg for his life for almost 10 minutes, and nothing happened. And I think it clicked for a lot of people that, like, ooh, maybe just doing what they say doesn't save your life. Because we watched that. We watched it happen just right in front of us. And yes, a lot of black people do have that rationale as well. There's a lot of black people that say the same thing.
Yeah, just comply.
Just comply. And there's a lot of activists that are like, it doesn't matter.
I'm about done.
It depends on the person. Let's end qualified immunity, and then we don't have to talk about this anymore, because they would, hopefully do the right thing, because they can't just innately get away with it.
Exactly.
And so what was it like having that first big protest on the mall?
That was wild. It was put together in 2 weeks' time. The murder of George Floyd happened towards the end of May. And then Juneteenth was 2 weeks later. I had gone out to a few protests, and I have a friend, and he's always been political. He dragged me canvassing for Bernie Sanders when he ran for president. He's just always been very, very into it. And I was always just like, yeah, I want to help. I'm here for this. And I ended up meeting him at a protest, somebody else's protest in DC. There were so many going on. It was literally like pop-ups. It just pick a national monument and there's a protest happening. And when I was there, I was watching these people, and I was just like, okay, the person with the bullhorn, like the person talking, the person with the mic standing next to in front of the crowd. I just wanted to be like, okay, who are you and how did you do this? Like, how did you get all these people here? And once I was able to identify these people, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to talk to him. You were able to get this group here. You were able to get this group here. And it really, I just had like a light bulb idea. I was like, why can't we do that? Why can't we bring all of these smaller groups into this bigger arena and push at the same time? Because I've always thought that together, one loud voice all at the same time, pushing for the same thing, is what's going to get us somewhere. And that was my goal with this protest. And before you know it, I'm making a Facebook page. I wasn't even on TikTok at this point. So if I would have had TikTok back then, oh my gosh, that would have just been a lot faster. But It was Facebook, and I'm pushing a Facebook event to register voters and just to get people out. And I wanted people who knew about the issues to talk to the people. And we were talking about everything because we wanted reform across the board: police, healthcare, housing. it was just so intersectional. So I got a doctor. I got somebody running for Congress. I got Pride Alliance. I got all of these different organizations because I wanted the crowd to hear from people who knew what they were talking about. And I knew that it wasn't me at the time. I was like, I'm out here trying, but I don't really have the confidence or the knowledge to speak on all of these issues. So I started, and that's what I want to tell people, white allies, send an email. There is still so much power in an email. That is how I was able to do all of it. Email. I worked a full-time job. I would come home, email. And they were all like, what's your organization? And then I was like, damn, I'm just Morgan and my two friends. But they were like, no, but like, what's your organization? And I was like, well, fuck, I need to make an organization. So I was like, we are the Freedom Day Foundation. And we became the Freedom Day Foundation. And from there, awesome. I continued to push and try to get as many people aware of what I was trying to do. And it ended up being really successful. We started at the African American History Museum down at the mall, the new one. We walked from there into the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. That is where we ended up taking the knee. And then from there, we went to the Lincoln Memorial where the protests finished. And it was such a beautiful moment. We had so many different organizations, people signing people up to vote, people just bringing awareness to certain issues. And it was kind of like you could go to whatever thing you were passionate about and just listen and talk to those people who specialized in that. And I was amazed at what I was able to accomplish with the help of friends in a 2-week time span. We ended up getting a documentary done about the event.
Awesome.
Because we continued to do other protests after that one event. It was so successful that we were like, let's keep pushing until elections. Like, let's just keep doing this until elections. Because at the time, everything was on the line. I was like, if Trump wins again, I don't know what we're up against next. Like, this cannot happen. So it was really powerful. It was really encouraging. It was a community like I've never seen it before. I remember my friend even said at the time that these protests were starting to look like the communities we want. You have people from all different walks of life coming out to like feed and water the movement, coming out to encourage one another and just ask, like, how can I help you? What can I do? And you saw neighbors talking. It was really something I've never seen before. And in such a diverse city that is DC, to see so many different people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, all come together. It was really beautiful. And it made me think this can happen. Like, this can happen on a larger scale and a larger scale if we just keep talking to one another. So I found that through conversation. That entire protest happened through conversations, relentless conversations. I was talking to anyone who would listen, anybody. I was just like, guys, we need to do something. Like, are you down to do something with me? And more often than not, people are down to support.
Yeah.
But it was a very powerful moment, and I hope to cultivate more spaces like that.
That's awesome. I'm super happy for you, excited for you. That's an amazing accomplishment. It's awesome to hear about. But we can wrap up here. I have one more thing to ask you, because we'd like to try to give a actionable item or something for people to do when they leave this. And you said something that I want to echo, because it feels like the last few podcast episodes we've talked about this. Talk to your neighbors. People are more interested than you think. People have more of the same issues than you think. You have more in common than you think that you do. And keeping us separated is one of those tactics of how they're keeping control, is because we aren't getting together. So don't feel like you have to just continue to try to find like-minded people all the time. You don't know where to search for those people. Just talk to your neighbors, because chances are they are like-minded people. But you are the one
completely
that you give the White Ally how-to guide, tips, tricks, messages. So what's one more to leave with people?
I feel like one thing I'm really trying to push more of now is a level of being kinder to one another. It has gotten to the point where our disagreements have turned hostile, and I know that these are big issues, really big issues, but move forward with grace and allow room for learning. I just think that if we allow just a little space for learning, that more people are there and willing to correct behavior. More people are willing to change, to be more accommodating. And if we just leave a little room for learning, that we will all progress together.
I love it. So, folks, try to keep an open mind, talk to people, drink water, stay hydrated.
Right. Drink water and talk to people.
Drink water and talk to people. That's a t-shirt. Make that t-shirt. You don't have to credit me on that one, but that's your merch right there. Drink water and talk to people.
I was like, I'll credit you in the book. The t-shirt, you're not getting that one.
No. I just in the acknowledgments of the book, that's fine. The merch idea, that one's for free. Let's
do this again sometime.
Yes, please, absolutely. But to wrap up, for people joining in late or trying to quickly catch up, again, what's your name? Where can we find you? Tag, name drop all the things.
My name is Morgan. You'll find me online as Morgan Matrix. Search the hashtag, the how-to guide for the White Ally, and you will find an archive of tips, advice, knowledge, all for free. You're welcome. But eventually buy the book. Right. Yeah. Get it now while it's on sale. Get it now while it's on sale, and she doesn't know how to use Patreon. Yeah, you can all be like, this is, we were part of it. We were on the ground floor. We were. Yeah, but Morgan Matrix across all platforms, Venmo and Cashapp too. Boom. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Morgan, thank you so much. I love you so much. Thank you for being on. We're going to do this. We're going to do this again. We're going to do it again. I'll jump on live with you. Well, I saw you and I was like, I got to jump on with her. And then you were off later. And I was like, dang it. This is only like my second one. Lives are scary. And this was so comfortable. And you're such a gracious host. And I just felt very at ease. So thank you for that. Oh, well, I am glad. But thank you so much. Love you all. Everybody have a good night. Peace. Ciao. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. Thank you again to Morgan, and I am so sorry about the wait. Like I said at the beginning, I actually lost this recording somehow. It just wasn't able to be downloaded from the server that I usually record to, and it was just a mess. But thank you so much for being patient with us all over here at the pod. But if you want to support the podcast financially, you can do so. There are Cash App and Venmo links down
down below, as well as a bonfire link, and I just threw up a new shirt on there, so go out and grab that. If you can't support the show financially, I completely understand that as well. A 5-star review and actually downloads on Spotify and Apple Music count for a lot these days, so if you could do that, that would be great. And also tell a friend, tell your mama, it's probably your favorite show. And one last thing, do me a favor. Remember, I love you, and go drink water right now. Stay hydrated. Go drink water right now. Okay, I'll see you next week.